here with Miss Price and Miss Lang, and we miss you a lot, so I decided to film a cooking video for 5th period. Please don't share with your friends, but I know you will anyway. We're at my house. This is my kitchen. And so we're just gonna go through the whole assignment that we did last week, where I show you everything that's in my fridge and my freezer and my pantry. And then I'm gonna make you a cheap, like, casserole thing, okay? So first, you can see all the things that are in my refrigerator. Yes. Yep. So we're gonna do a ground beef recipe. I already took the onion out. Okay. And then there's no frozen stuff in here, so you can still look in my freezer if you want. Fun fact, frozen meatballs are great for spaghetti. All my cool stuff. All right. And as you can see, I did take out some of the ingredients for our recipe today. But you can see my pantry as well. I have lots of other things in there. Cool. Miss Lang wants to say hi really quick. Miss Price,
she's gonna do an awesome job.
Miss Price wants to say hi too. Okay, so first things first, we're gonna chop up an onion and we're going to brown it in the cast iron with the hamburger and some diced green chilies. So we're gonna do that first. I already washed my hands for those of you keeping score at home. Because Miss Price,
I believe that would be pineapple.
makes me do that. Hey, you can pause while I do this. I'm just gonna chop the onion. Okay,
They don't know how to chop an onion. They need to know how to chop
I
an
already
onion.
taught them how to chop the onions. Dang it. I'm really thirsty right now. So this is how we chop an onion. Just gotta peel the skin off. I always use my vegetable bags for easy disposal. Fun fact. I think we're only going to use a half an onion for this because it'll probably be pretty strong. Fastest and easiest way to chop your onion is to just chop it down the middle. And then take half of it and put it down like this. And the sides, you just go in a line.
Question, Miss Shimke.
Yes, Miss Lang.
How do you prevent from crying when you're cutting an onion?
If you put your onion in the freezer, actually, and it's colder, you won't cry, or you can just wear goggles like lots of people in my family do. And then you just slice the onion like this on an angle, and then chop like this. Thank you for getting my best angle. Let's try it. Guys, this is how bored we are at home. I painted a wall this week. You're welcome. So if you just chop like this, and if you get to the end and you have like the root, you can just chop the root right out. Anyway, so if it's rough, you can just do a rough chop. Hold the knife like this and then put your hand on the top right here, and you can just rock it back and forth. It'll help get a rough chop. These don't need to be super small because we're just gonna throw them right in the pan and then they'll cook down. All right, so that was pretty quick, right? So first things first, we need to get our skillet heated. We're gonna do the cast iron today, which is my favorite. Add a little extra virgin olive oil to your pan. You're gonna wanna do like medium, high to medium. My stove is kind of crazy heat-wise. So, once that gets warm, we will add the onions. I'm also going to add some diced green chilies just to kind of spice this up. So I have a 4-ounce can right here. I'm going to drain them because we don't want the extra liquid in there. And Miss Price is going to pause this video. Alright, so now that this is warm, you're just going to add your onions in. If they start to sizzle when they're in the pan, your pan is hot enough. I like to use wooden spoon for everything. So you're gonna cook these down until they're like soft, but not all the way cooked through. We're gonna add the chilies in a minute once these start to cook. The chilies won't take as long, they're already soft. I think I'm gonna add garlic too, what do you think? Price says yes to garlic. Lang?
Absolutely. Why the wooden spoon though? Why not a metal spoon? You said you prefer wood.
Oh, I just like to cook with wooden spoons. Jerk face.
And they don't scratch, right?
They
Yeah,
don't
they don't
scratch
scratch
the
your hands.
Good job.
I always keep a jar of minced garlic in my refrigerator because it's easy and
That's how we do.
yeah, easy. Easy, easy. Fun fact, you should always put your garlic in last because you don't want it to burn.
Is that even when you are like cutting a garlic clove?
Yes. Unless you're roasting your garlic head, you can do that like way before, but if you're doing minced garlic, you always want to put it in once your onions are cooked because if you put it in too soon, your garlic will burn and you'll lose all of your garlic flavor, so you might as well not have put it in.
And it is so sad that you all cannot smell the aromas of these onions cooking down.
So see, they're getting a little bit translucent, so now we're going to add the green chilies. Can you hear it? Because, yeah. Except for what I lost in the sink earlier.
The chilies don't need to be cooked though, do they? Don't they just need to be, do they need to be warmed? Or
They seem
what?
to be warmed up. So we're waiting until the onions are cooked down a little bit before we add the meat in because the onions can cook for a long time and you really want your onions soft. So they'll continue, that smells really good. They'll continue to cook once you put the ground beef in. I'm doing a pound of ground beef. This recipe actually calls for 2 pounds, but I'm cutting it in half because it's just me here all by myself all the time. And I don't need 2 pounds of ground beef.
Did you cut the other ingredients in half?
Yes, I'm gonna have to
Okay.
cut it. I'm gonna have to show you guys how to cut an egg in half. Actually, when you like use, if a recipe calls for 3 eggs for a whole recipe, and you want to half it, like how to do half of an egg. All right, so that's getting really soft. I'm gonna add my garlic here. Just gonna do about half a tablespoon, like that, just right into the pan. You want to make sure that gets mixed up really well, and then we're gonna add our hamburger. So I bought a 3-pound thing of hamburger at Fry's the other day, and I just broke it down into thirds, so I have a pound here. It's been waiting for this moment. Just add that to your pan. And you want to break it down with your spoon. That's why I only did a half an onion too, because a whole onion to 1 pound of ground beef would be a lot.
And if you're freezing ground beef, but you want to use it fairly quickly and you want it to thaw quicker, before you freeze it, put it in like a gallon Ziploc baggie, smash it down flat. That way when it thaws, it takes like 5-10 minutes to thaw instead of a big chunk of meat.
Yes, that'll take hours. I also have a defrosting tray, which will cut your defrosting time in half, which is super helpful. So Miss Lang, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been helping Shinky paint a wall. Clearly missed a huge old spot, which is called a holiday.
Y'all are so welcome.
You wanted this to be an all around.
We are so bored.
And we miss you and love all of you.
While she's doing that, let's go take a look at the wall.
Let's go take a look at the wall on a holiday.
Oh, wait.
There's the holiday.
Tell them again what a holiday is.
Holiday is a spot that's missed when you paint your wall. That would be home improvement.
Who knew this was a home improvement and cooking class?
Is that not amazing how that actually ends up happening? Hello, how are all of you doing? Are you all doing a fine job?
Put it somewhere where I can have it. You also want to pay attention to the type of ground beef you get. Sometimes you can get like 90-10, so it'll be like 90% ground beef and 10% fat. So you can always tell how fatty your meat is when you start to saute it, like how much liquid is in your pan. You might have to strain that out. This is a pretty lean cut, so there's not a lot of fat in there, and I'm just going to leave it. You won't be able to taste it. For those of you that are picky about that, you might want to strain it out before you use it for anything
Can you
else.
just look at the cow though and determine what kind of percent it is?
No. And brown cows do not give you chocolate milk
I
while we're at
think they
it.
do. So do pink cows. Pink cows give you strawberry
Paul
milk.
Kale, I know you're going to ask me that question.
Exactly.
I don't know. The biology teacher said that that's pretty true.
Oh, see?
You're welcome.
There you go. Y'all are missing us. You know that. How long does it take to ground beef usually?
You can pause the video. We do not have to watch me stir this for 10 minutes.
I think they are going to enjoy the commentary.
I was gonna.
Oh, I'm waiting for you to pause. So once the ground beef is done, when it's totally brown like this, I'm going to add just a little bit of salt and pepper before I add the taco seasoning, just because I prefer salt and pepper on my meat. You always want to season your meat at the end. If you season it at the beginning, your seasonings kind of get lost in the ground beef. So just stir that in.
Shinky, it looks like you seasoned the spoon.
I did season the spoon, that's why I wiped it in my meat. You're welcome.
And it's just preference, right?
Yeah, it's just me. I prefer to have salt and pepper in my meat. So I'm going to add a little bit of taco seasoning. I usually buy the really big thing of it because it's cheaper this way, but you can also make your own, which is super affordable. For 1 pound of ground beef, they say to use about 3 tablespoons of this. I'm just going to eyeball it because
Where did you find that at?
in the spice aisle at Walmart.
No, the measurement.
On the back, it says 1 pound of ground beef, use 3 tablespoons and 3/4 cup of water. So, but I'm just going to eyeball it because
How could you make your own? Because you said you can make your own. What
you
is
can
it?
just put the seasonings in there. It's like chili powder, garlic, salt. Okay, that's not working. I'm just going to go this way. So just kind of go lightly. You can always add more later, so err on the side of caution. I always mix the taco seasoning first before I add the water, just to kind of see where I'm at. So you can see that there's really not that much in there. I'm just going to add a little bit more.
Does the water bring out more flavoring in it, or?
No, it just kind of steams it. You're just supposed to let it set, and it gives you a little bit more cook time. So that looks pretty good. I did not drain this. It's really low fat. You can see there's not a lot of fat in here, so I'll use just a little bit less water.
And if you're going for cheap, you can get fattier meat for cheaper. And it's great if you're mixing it in things like this and casseroles with other flavors. Then I recommend doing that. But if you're going to eat just ground beef, pretty plain, in a simple meal, I would splurge for some 90%.
Yeah. I like to get the 97.3, but it's a lot more expensive. So you can see I just add the water. I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit and just kind of let it simmer. And once the water's gone, you'll know it's done. And then I'm going to turn the pan off. The cast iron will keep it hot for about an hour. Okay.
So how does this change if you are on an electric stove or a hot plate like you use at school?
So the electric stove actually takes a lot longer to heat up. The gas is almost immediate. I use a cast iron because it has a lot better heat distribution on your pan, and it just cooks, it has a lot better flavor. But it gets really hot with the gas and the cast iron really fast. The electric, it just takes a little bit longer. So you also have to regulate your temperature a little bit more. Like you can see my flame, the higher the flame is, the hotter it is. So I just turned it down a little bit. So I'm just gonna let it simmer and let the meat break down a little bit. All right, so while we do that, I'm just gonna put some of this stuff away really quick.
Clean as you go, people.
Oh wait, Shinky, your salt and pepper shakers, what happened to those?
They melted on my gas stove. Okay, thank you, Miss Dean. That was
Anytime,
really
I thought you would
helpful.
appreciate that.
Sometimes I don't pay attention to the important things. SMH, right? Am I right? Simaha. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make cornbread, actually, because this is gonna be like a cowboy type casserole. So we're gonna do the ground beef on the bottom with some cheese, and then we're gonna do a cream cornbread on top, and then we're gonna bake it for the cornbread directions, and then it'll be done, and you can eat it like right then, but it refrigerates really well, and you can have a lot of leftovers. So for the cornbread, I'm just using a Jiffy cornbread mix. It costs 49 cents on a good day at Walmart. I haven't been able to find it for months, but this has been in my pantry because I always have at least 2 boxes of this. So the package directions, today I'm not going to follow them because I'm doing cream corn, but you can always use the package directions and not do the cream corn. The reason I'm doing cream corn is because I have it in my pantry and I don't have any corn in my freezer. So that's why I'm going this route. So first thing you want to do is just dump your mix into the bowl.
And as you're dumping that, a little bit of a tidbit, I found those Jiffy cornbread mixes next to the flour in the store instead of over by like the cake mixes and such.
Yes.
And because this is cream corn, I'm actually also going to use some sour cream. So we're going to do a half cup of sour cream as well. So this is a new thing. I'm going to reuse my garlic spoon, but you want to rinse it off first. And use my quarter cup that I used a minute ago. So we're just going to spoon this in here. Like with your wet stuff, you always want to just like level it off and then put it in the bowl. You could skip the sour cream and go with milk or an extra egg if you didn't have sour cream. I got lucky and found this at the store the other day. So as long as you've been clean, you can use your finger to just get the rest of that in there. All right. Then we're gonna do the egg. So like I said earlier, I halved this recipe, so it's a 3-egg recipe. So if you have 3 eggs, that's 1.5, right? Because we're working on fractions. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. You can just crack the 1 egg into your bowl. So the second egg for the half an egg is typically 2 tablespoons of whipped egg. So you crack your egg into a small bowl. And don't do it like I just did. That was all ugly. I'm going to use a fork. And I'm just going to whisk it. So you have like a scrambled egg. If you want to be really specific, you can get a measuring spoon out. But because I already have an actual tablespoon out right here, I'm just going to use that one. That's a fun fact, also where tablespoon came from. So just rinse that. Don't look at my really dirty sink.
Can eggshells go down a sink?
Absolutely not. So you just want to, it's hard to get, so you just kind of want to spoon and then see it fell. So just do a little bit. Right there, that's about 2. Or a little bit more. Egg is never a bad idea.
I love your precision, Miss Shimke.
Oh, I am like
such a mathematician.
Yeah, I don't measure things when I cook by myself. You guys really super suck.
Fun fact, it normally tastes better when you don't measure.
Exactly, I agree with that.
I make everything with love. So 1 stick of butter is a half a cup, so we need a quarter cup for this recipe. So I'm just going to cut this stick of butter in half, and it calls for a melted, calls for your butter to be melted, so I'm just going to put this in a bowl.
How do you know that 1 stick of butter is half a cup?
I'm so glad you asked, Miss Lang. Why don't you show them, because I know you know the answer to that.
Well, if you turn the little paper over, you'll see there.
You can see it on the paper right there. So it says a whole stick is half a cup. So then I just cut it in half for a quarter. Okay. And you can save this. That's why I didn't cut the paper. So I'm just going to put it back in the refrigerator. I'll probably use this tomorrow with my eggs.
And is that butter or margarine?
This is butter. Unsalted butter is better for baking. Salted butter is better for regular cooking, but I usually just buy unsalted butter for everything and then just add salt to my recipes if I need it. You're asking great questions, Miss Lang. Okay, as you can see, our hamburger needs to be stirred a little bit, but the liquid is mostly gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this off. Okay? We're just going to let it set until we're ready for it. In fact, we could probably put it in the baking dish right now, but I'm just going to wait and do it all at once. Okay? So our butter is melted. I just cooked it for a minute. All right? So I'm just going to add that. It is a little bit warm. You probably shouldn't typically add warm butter to your eggs because it could cook them. So just, don't do that in the future. But very...
Well, could you add it gently, though?
You
or
could.
gradually?
Yeah, you can temper it, but I'm not going to show you how to do that right now because this is not a baking class, ladies and gentlemen. And then we're going to add a little bit of salt just for kicks and giggles. My cool melted salt shakers that I melted on my oven. I'm not going to measure this. It says half a teaspoon, but just a couple of those. So I'm going to use a whisk, and I'm just going to whisk this together. And then I'm going to add half of this can of creamed corn. The recipe would, if you're doing the whole thing, would call for a whole can, but we're not doing that. I'll save it for something else. So you just mix it.
And if you didn't want to do creamed corn, you could have just done frozen corn.
And mix it with your meat and not your cornbread.
Okay.
What about canned corn? That's
You
not
can
cream.
always use canned corn. You just want to drain.
Does that have to do with the meat?
No, you can put that right in your cornbread. I just usually, the frozen cornbread will mess up the baking of the cornbread on top, so you want to put the frozen stuff in with your meat so that the water doesn't mess. And we're going to add in the creamed corn. I'll probably add a little bit more than half the can, just because I like creamed corn. I think I bought this for like a Thanksgiving thing that I never used it for, which is fine.
Shouts out to Mr. Moreno.
Shouts out to Mr. Moreno. Nobody knows him.
That's
So-
not true. Several people do from
So you can just kind of eyeball it. I'm just going to add a little bit extra. All right. And then you can just kind of mix that in like that. And if you feel like there's not enough corn in there, you can always add more. So I'm actually looking at that and I'm like, you know what? I think I'd like a little bit more in there, to be honest with you.
So the creaminess and the liquid's not going to affect the...
No, because that's why we added the extra egg and the sour cream. So it's just a little bit different recipe. I found it online. I've kind of adapted it just because it sounds like fun. All right. So now our cornbread is ready to go.
But again, if you didn't want to do the creamed route, you could have just done the corn and the meat and then the regular box instruction on your bread. Okay.
Absolutely. So we're ready to assemble our casserole. I have a baking dish over there. So first thing you want to do, because of the cornbread, you're just want to spray it. You don't need to spray it on the bottom for the ground beef.
Come on, Shinky, let's go. Come on.
You don't need.
We are great helpers.
We
She is
are
doing
wonderful
fantastic.
Yes.
Help,
So you don't really need to spray the bottom because of the ground beef, but you do want to make sure that the top is sprayed because the cornbread will stick. So I'm just going to spray the whole thing. I use extra virgin olive oil spray because it's less calories and all that goodness. So just do like this. Make sure you get your edges for sure, and then just a little bit on the bottom. All right, so we're good right there. So I'm going to take the ground beef and I'm going to mix it in the bottom of the pan. I was thinking earlier that some tomato would be really good in here, so I'm actually going to add a can of diced tomatoes just for a little bit extra flavor. And if when you're sitting here and you look and you see some of the fat on the meat start to settle, you can always spoon that out. So that's what I'm going to do right now because I'm not liking that. So you just take a spoon. I have a little bowl right here, so I'm just going to spoon it out on the side. So see, I don't want that in my casserole, so I'm just going to spoon a little bit out. And you can get a little meat out. It won't be the end of the world, but I just don't want a lot of fat in there. There's no need for that.
And the fat's basically the liquid that you're taking.
Yeah. But see, there's not very much. This is pretty lean cut of meat, so I think a little bit will be all right. But I did get a couple tablespoons out of there. So if that's your preference, you can always drain it off the side too. All right, so your cast iron's really hot, obviously. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to put it over here. Just dump it in my baking dish. This is a 9x13. I could probably do a 9x9, but it'll be thinner. The cornbread will cook a little bit faster this way. So you can see, yeah, I probably could have gone a 9x9 really easily, which is fine. It's not a big deal. All right, so. Oh.
Now the cast iron doesn't really make much of a difference, does it?
No, and honestly, I probably could have just baked it in there.
Okay.
And now I'm kind of regretting that decision.
It's perfect. Go with your go. Go with your gut. Go, go, go.
My gut says to put it back in the cast iron.
Well, then put it back in the
There's
cast
not
iron.
enough, there's not enough meat in this pan. I'm
Put
over
back
it.
in the cast iron. I think that would be a splendid idea.
All right, we'll just edit that out.
What?
where I put it in the pan.
No, because
And then-
sometimes when you cook, you have to make alterations.
Make
You
adjustments.
adapt.
Make adjustments.
Modify and adjust. Welcome to our world.
Okay, so I'm adjusting by putting this back in
The pan.
my cast iron, which would be great for baking.
This is adulting here, people. This is what you do.
Yeah, see, if I had used the 2 pounds of ground beef that the recipe originally called for, this would have been perfect. But see, I didn't. And I didn't think that through at all. So,
Tomatoes.
some tomatoes. Just some petite dice. Fire roasted would be really good, but I don't have any fire roasted. And the whole point of this recipe was to use what I had. So,
Ooh.
I'm going to go the whole can because I really, really, really like tomatoes. Some people don't. So you want to just kind of stir that up. Mix it with your meat. Next, I'm going to add cheese on top of this. You can always add cheese when this is done baking too. But I'm just going to do cheese on top first.
This is only half, and it's making a lot of food.
Yeah. So I will eat this probably for 5 nights.
Ugh.
Maybe 4.
That's a long time.
Wow. Thank you, Miss Lang.
Anytime. That's a long time of one meal.
I'm so glad you my food. Jerk.
Cállate la boca,
Is this
Shinky.
the dumbest thing I've ever done?
Oh, it's awesome. The kids are going to love it.
Are you recording right now? Perfect. I have nothing to say.
Yes, there's lots to say. She just wasted a pan here that now I get to clean. I'm just telling you all.
Oh, I forgot to turn my oven on. Probably should have turned the oven on while you're
Doing your meat.
while your meat was going, but I forgot. So, oh, there's an onion. I'm just gonna throw him in there. My oven is really hot, so I always have to do 25 degrees below. But you should bake this at 375. The cornbread says 400, but you want to go a little lower because it has a little bit more stuff in it. Okay. So now we've got all this in there. I'm going to add the cornbread on top. You just want to spread it on top of the mixture. So the cornbread will bake, and that's what you're doing. So you're going to put it in the oven to bake the cornbread, not to recook any of this because it's already cooked. So I'm going to use a rubber spatula. I'm just going to scrape. Just going to nice and easy throw this on top. And it's okay if your cornbread mix is lumpy, even if it has a little bit of like dry, like it didn't all get mixed up, you can kind of mix it when you put it in. So you see this, I'm just gonna spread it. So it covers it like a pie. I'm gonna go all the way to the edges. Just like
Ooh, that actually looks really good.
that. All right, so once the oven is heated, I'm gonna bake this at 375 for, I think, about 30 to 35 minutes, but you can always test it with a toothpick to see if it's done. And then when it's done, I'll show you what it looks like when it's pulled out. I get my best angle.
Yes, the best angle.
So this has been in for about 30 minutes, so I'm just gonna test the cornbread. It's starting to bubble over in the bottom of my oven, so that's also really fantastic, but I don't think it's done yet. Yeah, see, it's still a little wet, so I'm gonna go another 5-10 minutes. But it's done on the edges, so we're getting close though. All right.
Hang in there.
All right, guys, so it's been about 40 minutes because I think the cast iron made it just take a little bit longer. So I'm gonna take it out. It's made a real fantastic mess in my oven, but you can smell that if you have smell-o-vision.
Willy Wonka! Woo!
So I'm just gonna take that right on out. You can see it's really done around the edges and really messy in my oven. That's disgusting. So now we're gonna pause and then I'm gonna plate it. You're welcome. All right, crazies. So I'm just gonna cut into this and then I'm gonna spoon some out on plates for Miss Price and Miss Lang and I. I'm just gonna cut from the side and use a spatula to get it out. Apparently these crazy people aren't hungry, so we're not eating very much, but don't worry, I'll eat half of this after they leave. 'Cause you know me.
And it's still really hot. So.
It's still very hot. I don't know what happened to my pot holder. Oh wait, I found it. So this first is gonna be super messy, so no one judge me, okay? So we're gonna go from the middle, so I have a little bit of traction. Just go deep. So it's still a little runny in the middle actually, which is fine. It's cooked. And it's the cream corn that makes it runny, so it's not a big deal. But you put it on the plate, it looks like that. And we will film Miss Price and Miss Lang eating this because they deserve to be on camera as well. It's not fair. Don't worry, I get the big piece in the middle because they don't want it. This is for Miss Lang because she's never hungry.
So you give her 2 scoops.
Still mini scoop.
Don't
panic. Can't panic. This is a left-hand scoop. Jerk. All right, so we're just gonna leave that be, and we'll do reviews later. All right, now it's time for reviews. Miss Lang.
So I believe that Shinky did a very fine job on this. It's quite flavorful, and it's very nicely done. It might have needed a little bit extra salt for my own personal taste, but obviously Shinky doesn't like the additional taste. But how about you, Mrs. Rice?
It's amazing, guys. We love you. We miss you.
We do beyond miss you. You guys are the bestest and the westest and the mostest on the coastest.
I miss you a lot. Like a lot. Bye, guys. Hope you enjoyed my recipe. That's me eating it. Adios.
Whatever.
See how hard it is to laugh?
Apparently, Lang wants to tell you, whatever. We miss you so much.